I can't dislike you, but I will say this to you. You haven't got long before you are all going to kill yourselves, because you are all crazy, and you can't project it back on me. I am only what lives inside each and every one of you. Today I would like to inform you about the childhood, young life, Helter-Skelter, and what Charles Manson is doing today. I do not really have a specific reason for choosing this topic other than pure interest about why people do things such as murder. I know my beginning quote sounded a little crazy, but hopefully by the end of my speech you will understand a little better of just how crazy this man is. Charles Manson was born on November the 12th, 1933 in Cincinnati, Ohio. His birth name is Charles Miles Manson. His mother is Kathleen Maddox, and she was 16 years old when she gave birth to Charles. Kathleen ran away from home at the age of 15 and later became an alcoholic. Charles spent most of his childhood in relatives' homes or boys' homes because of his mother's addiction. At 9 years old, he was already stealing. As you can see, his childhood was a mess, and it only progressed with age. In 1954, at the age of 19, Charles, who was then out on parole, got married to a waitress named Rosella Willis. In 1956, they had a son and named him Charles Manson, Jr. Manson supported his family by stealing cars, but in April of 1956, he was arrested again. In June 1957, his wife divorced him for another man. 1 year later, Manson was released from prison. He soon began pimping, stealing mail from mailboxes, and conning women out of money. In no time, he got remarried to a woman named Liana. They had a son and named him Charles Luther Manson. On June the 1st, 1960, Manson was arrested again. That same year, his second wife divorced him. He then spent 6 years in prison. While in prison, he became friends with Alvin Carpez, a former Mubarker's gang member. Alvin taught Manson to play the guitar, and Manson began to believe he would one day be a famous musician with illusions of fame and a desire for a family of his own. On March 21st, 1967, Manson was released from prison and decided to move to San Francisco. After moving, he started playing his music in the streets, clubs, and anywhere people would listen. He eventually gained some followers. In 1968, he and the followers moved to California. Denise Winson introduced Manson to the Beach Boys and Terry Melcher. Manson somehow believed Terry would advance his career, but when Terry did not, Manson was very angry. During this time, Manson and his followers moved to the Span Ranch, a popular Western film location in the 1940s and 1950s. Manson called his followers his family. While at the ranch, Manson began to manipulate his family with various drug and mind-washing games. The family has said that he would bring them lots of drugs such as acid and cocaine for them to take, and while they were high, he would tell him that he was a prophet of God. One of the games they would play was he could walk up to you at any time and put his hands out, and a family member had to mirror his hands and body exactly. These techniques were used to make the family move as one body, soul, and mind. With Manson as their leaders, he would make them do anything. Manson has been called a very intelligent manipulator. Even members of the family have said they felt that they had no control over their own lives. As soon as the Beatles released their White Album in 1968, Manson thought the song Helter-Skelter predicted a race war. He said it would happen in the summer of 1969 when the blacks would rise and slaughter the white people. When it did not happen, he told the followers they had to show the blacks how to do it. Manson ordered 4 of his followers to 150 Cielo Drive, Los Angeles, California. This was Terry Melcher's house, the man who did not help him with his music career. What Manson did not know was that Terry had moved out and no longer resided there. Actress Shannon Tate and her husband, director Roman Polanski, now rented the home. On August the 9th, 1969, 4 followers were killed: Tate, her unborn child, and 4 guests that were visiting her. Her husband, Roman, was on vacation at the time. The next night, the followers killed Leno and Rosemary Leigh Bianca. It took the police months to determine the killers. In December 1969, Manson and the followers were arrested. The trial began on July the 24th, 1970. On January 25th, Manson was found guilty of first-degree murder and conspiracy to commit murder, and on March 29th, 1971, Manson was sentenced to death. Even with everything he did, Manson will not apologize. He did not think he did anything wrong. In 1972, California outlawed the death penalty. Manson is now spending the remainder of his life in California's prison. He sometimes comes up for parole, but he tells everyone, "Do not worry about me getting parole. I quit going to the hearings. They would be insane to let me out." Manson has been in prison now for 30 years and oddly enough has received more mail than any other prisoner. I hope that with some help from my speech you have learned more about Manson's childhood, young life, Helter Skelter, and what Charles Manson is now doing today. I would like to leave you with a recent quote from Manson. "Being crazy used to mean something, but nowadays everybody is crazy."